Hi everyone, it's Friday, it's time for another Tech Talk. Today we've got a bit of a special guest with us. We've got Joe from Eno over in the US joining us, and the guys from the workshop. We've got Hayden and Adrian. So today's a bit of a workshop Tech Talk. We're going to be discussing how old is too old. Hayden, what do you got thoughts when it comes to how old is too old?
No such thing. I'm 21 and going blonde. That's it. Don't need any more of this. I'm out. Old.
I think we're talking about machinery, pal.
I'm a machine. Come on, guys. I'm a machine. I don't think there is too old. We've got machines in the market that are 25 years old and still grinding out there today. The real question, I think, is not how old is too old. I think what happens when machines do get old. Or, what are the pros and cons between a new machine and an older machine? Are we going to have trouble running them? Are they going to break down more frequently? What are we looking at? What's happening to these machines? Joe, Adrian, you guys work on them every day. Anything you guys know about?
Recently, we're getting a lot of inverter issues, which parts like that are getting harder to come by. The general spare parts that generally wouldn't go on a newer machine are starting to get worn out and going on older machines. So it's all a cost and how much you're willing to keep putting into your old machine.
Yeah, I'd kind of piggyback off that and say, I think the bigger thing we're seeing is electrical. If machines are well sealed and well taken care of, they'll last a really long time. We're usually getting a lot of VFD errors. I've seen quite a few wheel issues recently. Started seeing a good bit of those harnesses start to short out near the board. So yeah, it's how much you want to put back into the machine. If you're running it and giving it the work, it'll last. I mean, as long as you take care of it, I don't see why I wouldn't.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that a lot, even with OEM parts and things like that. Every manufacturer will outsource certain parts of their machines and switches and dials. All those parts will eventually become obsolete from the supplier that's making them. Doesn't mean it's something else is not available, but you do get to a point where certain parts just won't be around and have to start retrofitting. What's the cost on that? Is there any other parts that need to be done at the same time? These are all the questions that come up around the cost of it. Now, to rebuild an old machine isn't necessarily going to mean that it's going to end up dearer than a new machine. Machine on the ground is still making money. I guess the big question there is, what are the costs that are going to be incurred by that? You've got a brand new machine that's going to, a big outlay up front. There's a whole lot of benefits to why you would do a brand new machine from a cost perspective, and depending how a business is set up from taxes and claiming and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of good things as compared to rebuilding a machine. But again, how old is it before you say, I don't want to spend that extra money on it? It's still going to go on the floor. Performance becomes a bit of a thing in there, as not even a reliability. Reliability and performance are two different things here. Newer machines have got some newer technologies in them from different manufacturers. Higher grinding, tooling, linear meter speeds and things like that will give you performance increases. More weight, we know, can give a performance increase. So it really comes down to the individual business, what fits best for you. Are you not big enough that you can afford to go and replace your entire fleet with brand new machines? You got to keep the old girls running. They're still going to make you the money. On the servicing side, newer machines generally are a little bit quicker to repair, and not necessarily how long it takes the mechanics to repair it. It's the time the machine is down off your floor. An older machine might need to sit for 4 days, might only get worked on for 2.5 days of that, but it's drying time for certain components and glues and things like that we have to wait for. A newer machine might literally just take you the 2 days because there's nothing that needs to dry to dry seal an O-ring or something like that. So you can get it back on the floor quicker. So it's that cost of downtime that you're comparing there in that as well. So there's no easy answer for how old is too old. Plenty of guys just love their old King Concepts machines or their original HTCs. There's just so many of them out there. But again, parts availability is going to start becoming an issue for a lot of these machines. Not a lot anyone can do about it. It's just going to eventually hit a point, but hey, we're 25 years on for a lot of these machines and there's still bits around, so I'm not scared for the next 5. So I guess moving on from that, what have we, Mike, anything from you on the finance side of it? You deal with guys every day. Is there anything you can put in?
This could almost be a mock-up phone call that I get at least once or twice a month, and that is, Mike, do I go and spend the money and get a brand new machine, or do I get an older second-hand machine and spend a bit of money on it and get it up and running well? with a bit of car industry background that I have, surprisingly how all this sort of translates through, very similar to cars. Do I go and get the brand new model, or do I get the current model, not the brand new model, and at least the current model? All the mechanics know how to service them. They know how to work on them. I know what upgrades I can do to it and things like that. So it's that bit of a comparison. But at the end of the day, obviously talking Australian dollars here, it's, do you want to spend 30, 40, 50, $60,000, or do you want to spend 10 or 15 and maybe another 5 or 10 getting this older machine set up well? So yeah, it sort of comes back to an individual's decision. Quite often, I know we've given advice to people that, you know, are wanting to get into the industry. I'm just going to go and throw 50 grand at a brand new growing machine before I even think about trucks and vacuums and anything else. Well, no. So maybe we might suggest to them that they might start off with a second-hand machine that, as you know, Joe mentioned, if it's got good bones, as we say, or, you know, the basis of the machine's good, but it needs a bit of attention, whether it be electrically or mechanically, to be fixed up and get right and get ready to go, that can be more cost effective and leave money over for trucks and vacuums and tooling and outlays and setting up businesses and things like that. So there's good and bad to both. You've got some people that are swear blind by the older machines. What I've always known, it's I know what to do with it. I can do things on it myself, and it's all very cookie cutter, straightforward stuff because they've been around 100 years. But then you've got the other person who said, well, why would I bother messing around with any of that stuff? I'll just go and buy a brand new one out the box and I'm ready to go. Yeah, dollars certainly comes into it. And then there's people that, yeah, they have got that machine. It is tired. It is old. It does need $10,000 odd worth of work done to it to get it in great condition again. But yeah, whether they feel like they want to go and get the new shiny model.
Exactly.
So yeah, it really does. I think dollars is the biggest thing that comes into it. It can be quite a big comparison. It's not like, well, by the time you've got your second-hand machine and you've spent a bit of money on it, you're almost the price of a new machine anyway. Well, no, there is usually quite a bit of a difference between. But you've heard me say more than once here about getting a machine, Mickey Mouse, getting it all right and spending a bit of dough on an older machine. I guess the question I wanted to ask is, if I am getting a machine rebuilt that's, say, maybe never even been rebuilt, is that just pull one thing out and replace it with a new one? Or are there actually upgrades and things that get done along the way that we've sort of done over the years that become standard? Do you find that, guys? Or?
Well, I don't know about Joe, but as far as us here, we do a lot of internal upgrades that just strengthen the machine up, make it run a bit better, and handle a bit more pressure. There's other seals and things like that can go in there that make it run a bit longer. Generally, when we do a rebuild, we're kind of expecting between the 700 and 1,000 hour mark before needing to do it again. Quite a lot of grinding. Yeah, like there's a lot of welding and strengthening, just the stuff that we've seen over the years that can fail. We try to prevent that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of optional parts as well. I mean, we've got big block upgrades, for HTCs. We've got rebuildable pulleys. There's a lot of additional parts to assist in that rebuild lifetime and ease later on that are coming out of the woodwork with a lot of these OEM parts being harder to get. So the development side as well is massive on the rebuild aspect. So because not everyone's going to buy a brand new machine, so we still need to support the guys that don't want to for whatever reason they're choosing not to, and they still got good machines and they will be good machines for a long time still. So yeah, very important that anything we can do to make them last longer as it is important for us to do as well. It's not, we just want to sit idle with these machines and go, it's just the same machine and it's always going to be the same. That's not the case. So yeah, we're definitely striving every day with every problem that comes in to see if there's a better solution.
How do you find it, Joe? Would you agree to that sort of thing? Or?
Oh yeah, I think we get a lot of guys that are running these older machines, 500 to 700 hours, and we'll bring them in, we'll test them, and they sound good. And some of the guys don't really want to spend the money to do a lot of the upgrades, but something like a wheel kit, it'll help these guys' performance just about a little bit. You don't have to spend the big chunk of change, but something small like that. Definitely get a lot of praise from guys that are smaller companies, running small crews, just getting them in and then just opening them up. I think we also see a good bit of bearing rebuilds. Some guys they'll be running machines and end up have a bearing go bad, and then it'll kind of cause the whole system to get janky. And so we like to basically open them up, pull those bearings out, and once they're out, we'll give them all new bearings, and that basically guarantees You get odds inside the machine. You get all new bearings. You get basically a once over of internally the main thing that's spinning those heads and cutting that floor. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
Giving themselves a bit of peace of mind and that bit of confidence that they're while the machine's in there, let's get done what we should probably get done.
Yeah, we've had 1,000-hour machines in come in beat up, pretty rusty and rough, and open it up and it'll be pretty spotless sometimes. So it's pretty neat to see. So
it's like I always say to Adrian, you've got to tell customers what needs doing on a machine and that sort of thing, but you should tell them what you would do if it was your machine, you know, and you'd be the same, Joe, that look, if it was mine, I'd probably go the extra yards for this reason and do that, which I think a lot of customers want to hear. When I'm talking to customers out on site and I talk about the booking in process and what happens when a machine comes into us to the workshop, I tell them that. I say, look, that they'll ring you and tell you what needs doing and then probably what you should do while it's in here. And I said, but you'll probably even find they'll take it a bit personally and they'll tell you what they'd be doing if it was theirs. And their eyes light up. They say, oh, that's great. You know, these guys would know what should be done.
Sounds good. I guess moral of the story, just like I said at the start, there's no such thing as too old. Just look at me.
We were talking about performance. Joe mentioned performance and that sort of thing. I know we were going to paint you into a bit of a corner here, Hayden, and you might be the better one to ask here, but if I asked you to put a percentage on it, what would you see an older machine versus a new age machine performance-wise? You mentioned before they can perform better, obviously being an updated version. Like, is it sort of performing 20% better on average, or is it going to be more like 50%? Or
that's a really hard one to answer, Mike. It depends. A big thing is, what are you comparing against? You know, if you're comparing an old HDX 650 to a PJ 690 and things like that, there's going to be bigger increases there. But look, generally speaking, it is a bit of a sample. So most of the earlier machines, the frequency inverters ran to 80 hertz on the main discs. So the newer machines, and I believe even some of the newer HTCs, they're running a higher frequency. So about 100 hertz, so almost 20% kind of style above. That's not going to relate to exactly 20% under the machine, but it's certainly an application. Everything's going to come into it. But look, you're definitely going to see an increase because you're running everything faster than before. So bigger discs, all that kind of stuff on different machines is all. There's so many differences in the calculations of doing it all. But yes, you will see a performance increase from that aspect. They're a heavier machine as well, so you're going to see, with all conditions, within reason, you will see a performance increase there. You might see some smoother running, things like that as well. So there are benefits. Obviously, no one brings out a new machine that's worse than the old one, generally speaking.
You'd like to think.
Automotive industry has proven that does happen from time to time. But the goal is always bringing out something that is better than what was there. Whether it's 5% or 30%, that really comes down to the operator, what they're doing, and what they had before. But certainly, like anything, yes, you would. If you're buying a brand new machine, yes, you want to see a performance increase. What that is depends on.
But it's reasonably marginal. It's not like you're going to turn around and tell me, oh, mate, you'll see an 80% difference and it's going to be chalk and cheese. And I guess you might even be talking about a fairly standard machine versus another standard machine. All of a sudden, you've got big block upgrades and demos going on and all sorts of things that can increase productivity on all the machines.
That's exactly right. So you hit the nail on the head there. Big block 680 versus big block 690. You're probably not going to see a huge difference in it. When you get to resins, you might see a bit of a difference up there in the higher end because you can get a higher tool speed on the 690. So there, again, small changes in there, but we're not talking 50% faster. It's just to go that much more. It's basically going to double the size of your machine really. To get that kind of performance increase.
What do you reckon, Joe? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've had too much experience with newer machines. I've really been playing with the old stuff. But yeah, from what Hayden has explained, I would agree with that.
I guess what are some of the strange problems each of you have seen when working on machines, and what have you had to do to fix them, I guess?
The biggest one, like even what Joe said, electrical problems. There's been stuff burning, so making sure everything's tight, going over everything. At the end of the day, it is an electrical part. It will get hot. then get cold and loosen off. Checking things like that, the best way to keep it running.
Yeah, I'd definitely say electrical overall. I mean, the metal wear is pretty expected, but it'll be weird. Short, yeah, just little legs getting loose and burn up and just causing a big old mess. I actually had a machine come in a few weeks ago. They had previously been worked on, but I could see there was like a big pile of like almost melted soot on top of the small VFD. And after doing some, just following the wires back, the EMI filter, from what I'm guessing, it either burned up or exploded or something. And so it just left a pile of soot on top of this VFD. And the guy was confident that his VFDs were done. He didn't know what to do. And then went in there and basically was able to get the cover off the VFD, and internally it was good. So that was a pretty funky one, but it was fun to kind of do some tracking back and solve a little mystery.
What about you, Hayden? I'm sure you've got something weird and wonderful.
An issue that's been coming up recently, I've got to say, that I'm hearing a little bit more and more of. And again, we're talking old machines. The old HDX machines, the receivers on them having some failures. So I'm seeing more and more of those and hearing about them. And again, still available. So old machine can still get parts. But that's becoming more and more, some of these older remote machines are starting to have some problems electronically again. As we keep talking, electronics is something that is just not made to last that long. So, we put thick steel on something and make it last, but electronic components, they've only got a certain lifetime. So it's always going to be the Achilles heel of a lot of these machines is the electronics. So look after them, guys.
And what's the fault? What are they calling you with? Just not getting any contact between the receiver and the machine? Or?
Sometimes it's just dead, won't power up. Other times the receiver just is putting out random bogus controls, or outputs out to the wheel drives and things like that. So it's just, you push a joystick forward and the machine just wants to turn sideways and just random things like that. And it's not consistent. It's the next time you turn it on, you push forwards and it wants to go backwards. It's just random things in the electronics that are just failing.
Oh, there you go. Now, I know the workshop team workshops usually knock off a bit earlier than the office and the sales staff and have a bit of a beer. So I think we might be getting towards that, being part of the workshop team this week. But have you guys got anything else you'd like to put out there before we go?
No, look, I'd just like to thank Joe for coming on.
Yeah. Thank y'all for having me.
It was good to finally get you on here.
Oh, yeah. It was a good time. I appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed it. Hope we see you come back.
Oh, yes, sir. Definitely.
Yeah, I can feel a regular guest spot being opened up. Absolutely.
I'll get comfortable.
Only drink beer, so the time difference is a bit weird, but it's okay. It's probably middle of the night, early morning over there right now. So have a beer anyway. It's fine. We'll let you.
Oh yeah.
We'll meet you in the middle, mate. We'll call it lunchtime. So you're okay to have a beer.
Sounds good with me.
But if anyone's got any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, or absolutely pick up the phone and get in touch if there's something you'd like to discuss. But I hope that answers a few questions and makes people think a little bit about the thing. Thanks very much again, Joe. Cheers, Adrian, Hayden, and have a great weekend, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Meeting warning. That's the lie.
That's all the credit. That's all the credit we have left.
Let's do it. Let's go.
I have to put more money into this thing.